No one tells you this, but wealth has nothing to do with how hard you grind. It's timing, it's a sequence. It's hitting the right financial moves at the right age before life starts charging interest on every mistake. And once you understand that order, everything about money finally clicks. Because you've probably felt that strange tension before. You're working, saving, doing everything right. Yet someone your age seems miles ahead. It's not because they're smarter or luckier. It's because they followed a structure you were never shown, a roadmap. And money becomes a lot less chaotic once you see the order it actually follows. My name is Alex, and I spend an unhealthy amount of time studying why some people accelerate while others stall, even when they're putting in the same effort. If you're new here, hit subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who are trying to get their financial life under control. So here's the real question: what financial level should you actually be at right now? And what comes next if you want to stay on track? Today, we're breaking down the age-by-age sequence of milestones, and one of these levels will permanently change how you measure your own progress. The hidden sequence behind wealth. Most people spend their entire adult life trying to outrun their finances. They work harder, save harder, sacrifice more, yet somehow feel like they're moving in slow motion while others glide past them. And here's the uncomfortable truth. It's not because you're lazy or irresponsible or late. It's because you were never shown the order. Wealth has a sequence, and the people who seem to accelerate effortlessly are simply following it without announcing it. Think of money like building a house. If you put the second floor up before pouring the foundation, everything collapses, even if the materials are good. The same thing happens financially. Too many people try to invest before stabilizing their cash flow. They try to buy a home before fixing their credit. They chase status before creating breathing room. Then life hits them with a job change, a medical bill, a car repair, and suddenly they're rebuilding from scratch. Not because they weren't trying, but because the structure was upside down. The real advantage the fast movers have is not superior intelligence, it's sequencing. They hit the right milestones at the right time, even if they didn't have much to start with. Meanwhile, the people who get stuck are usually doing good things just in the wrong order, and nothing slows financial progress more than timing errors. Maybe you've been trying to do everything at once: save, invest, pay down debt, upgrade your lifestyle, prepare for a home, build an emergency fund. That mix feels productive, but it's actually fragmentation. You're spreading your energy so thin that nothing compounds. Your progress feels microscopic, your stress feels huge, and your confidence quietly fades. Once you understand that wealth builds in levels: survival, stability, ownership, expansion, freedom, things stop feeling chaotic. You stop comparing yourself to people who are simply at a different stage. And you stop blaming yourself for not being where you should be, because you finally understand where you actually are. The entire goal of this framework is clarity. When you know the sequence, you stop guessing. You stop hoping. You stop patching holes every time life gets unpredictable. And instead, you start stacking moves in the order that actually produces momentum. This section is your reset button, the moment where the chaos turns into a roadmap. Because once you understand the levels, every financial decision from here on out becomes simpler, clearer, and a lot less exhausting. Level 1, age 18 to 22. Survival skills and first financial discipline. Your late teens and early 20s feel like a strange mix of freedom and panic. For the first time, you're technically an adult. But your bank account is very much not. Money comes in small waves, disappears instantly, and every unexpected expense feels like a personal attack. This stage isn't glamorous, but it's foundational. If you get this part right, the rest of your financial life becomes dramatically easier. Level 1 is all about learning to live below your means. Really live below your means. Not as punishment, but as protection. Most people confuse small income with small responsibility, and that's where things spiral. The truth is, the less you earn, the more discipline matters. A $500 mistake hits harder when you only have $700 to your name. This is the stage where you track every dollar even when it stings, not because budgeting is fun, but because ignorance is expensive. You start noticing patterns, how one night out destroys an entire week of progress, or how small daily treats secretly steal your future options. Awareness becomes your first superpower. Then comes the emergency fund, the first real test of financial adulthood. Saving $500 to $1,000 doesn't sound like much, but The moment your laptop dies or your job delays payroll, that tiny cushion becomes the difference between calm and chaos. You're not saving for the amount, you're saving for the feeling of knowing you've got your own back. But here's the trap. The moment you start earning a little more, the urge to prove adulthood kicks in. New shoes, a nicer phone, a car payment you can almost afford. Nights out that feel justified because you've earned it. It's the performance of success before the foundation of success. And it destroys early momentum. The people who win at this level are the ones who delay the show. They don't broadcast progress, they build it quietly. They understand that saying no to lifestyle inflation now doesn't limit them, it frees them. Because when you're not scrambling every month, you can make decisions from strength instead of fear. If you can master living below your means here, when it's the hardest, you create a habit that will carry you for decades. You're not just surviving, you're building stability, independence, and control. And once this foundation is set, every next level feels 10 times easier. Level 2, age 22-28, kill bad debt and build a real buffer. Your early to mid-20s are the moment when money finally starts showing up with some consistency. It's not a lot, but it's reliable enough that you stop checking your bank account with one eye closed. And for the first time, you feel a little breathing room, which is exactly where most financial damage begins. Because right around this age, the world hands you tools you're not prepared for: credit cards with friendly limits, store accounts with no interest for 12 months, buy now, pay later buttons, overdraft protection that feels like a safety net, and loan offers that magically appear the moment your paycheck starts landing. None of these things are evil on their own, but they're extremely dangerous when you're inexperienced, stressed, or trying to prove you're doing well. Level 2 is about shutting down this trap as early as possible. This is where you aggressively clear high-interest debt, the kind that grows faster than your income. If interest rates are in the double digits, that debt becomes a parasite, so you commit at least 20% of your income to eliminating it. It might feel painful at first, but pain now is far better than regret later. At the same time, you start contributing to a retirement account, ideally 10% of your income. And no, it will not feel comfortable. Retirement is a concept your brain won't fully grasp yet, but the math is non-negotiable. Starting early is the closest thing the average person has to a superpower. Then comes the real turning point of this stage, the financial buffer, 3 to 6 months of living expenses sitting quietly in a high-yield savings account. This isn't just about emergencies, it's about leverage. A solid buffer lets you quit a toxic job, handle medical bills without panic, move cities for a better opportunity, or take a calculated risk without wrecking your life. In your 20s, options are everything. A buffer buys them. The hardest part of this level isn't the math, it's resisting lifestyle creep. Your income grows, but that doesn't mean your lifestyle should. You don't need the larger apartment, the new phone every year, or the weekly social life upgrade. Those things feel good for a moment and cost you years of progress. Level 2 is where adulthood stops being theoretical and becomes strategic. If you clear debt, build your buffer, and keep your lifestyle lean, you'll enter your late 20s with stability most people never experience. And from there, the next level becomes not only possible, but inevitable. Level 3, age 28-35, your first property and the shift into ownership. By the time you reach your late 20s or early 30s, something shifts. You're not reacting to every bill like it's an emergency anymore. Your income is more stable. Your emergency fund actually exists. You've made a few financial mistakes, survived them, and learned from them. And for the first time, your money feels less chaotic, which is exactly why this is the moment to start thinking bigger. Level 3 is where you move from stability to ownership. This is when you begin preparing for, or actually buying, your first property. Not because home ownership is a magic wealth hack, but because it forces long-term thinking in a way renting never will. A mortgage is commitment, discipline, and delayed gratification all wrapped into one long contract. But here's the part most people get wrong. Buying a home is not an impulse purchase. You don't wake up one morning, get pre-approved, sign the papers, and call it a win. The preparation starts years earlier. Ideally, 2 to 3 years before you even think about putting in an offer, you're shaping your financial profile, lowering high-interest debt, keeping credit utilization low, maintaining consistent income, avoiding large purchases that make lenders nervous. During these years, you're also building your deposit. That means putting 20 to 30% of your income into a dedicated savings bucket, no matter how slow it feels. Saving for a property is less about the amount and more about the habit. When you consistently save for something long term, you're training your brain to prioritize future comfort over present impulse. At the same time, you're investing more aggressively. About 15% of your income goes into index funds or ETFs, not because you're chasing fast returns, but because you finally recognize that compounding is the engine pulling you into your 30s. Here's the most important mindset shift. Your first home does not need to be your dream home. It doesn't need granite countertops, perfect neighborhoods, or Instagram lighting. It needs to be structurally sound, financially reasonable, and below what you can truly afford. You're buying a stepping stone, not a finish line. The goal of this stage is not just to own property, it's to own stability. Once you've secured your first asset, you're no longer just budgeting or surviving, you're building. And from this point on, your money starts acting less like a stress point and more like a foundation no one can take from you. With this level locked in, momentum finally begins to work in your favor, and level 4 becomes a different game entirely. Level 4, age 38 to 44. Your second property and the expansion phase. Your late 30s to early 40s are a very different financial landscape. You've lived enough life to know that emergencies aren't rare. They're predictable. You've made mistakes, corrected them, and built systems that keep your finances from spinning out every time the universe throws something at you. At this stage, survival is no longer the goal. Stability isn't the goal either. Now, it's about expansion, building assets that work harder than you do. Level 4 is where your financial world becomes more deliberate. You're not just earning money, you're allocating it with strategy. You've already learned how much discipline it took to buy your first property. This time, you're doing it with experience. You're running numbers, not emotions. You're choosing locations based on rental yields, maintenance costs, long-term demand, and how strong the area will look 20 years from now, not just next month. But here's the twist. You don't accelerate this stage by squeezing your current income. You accelerate it by adding a temporary income stream. A freelance project, consulting on weekends, a small contract gig, nothing extreme. Just enough extra cash to fatten the fund you're building for your second asset. Most people underestimate how much a short-term burst of discipline can move a long-term timeline. At the same time, your investing strategy becomes more serious. You're contributing 15 to 20% of your income consistently, not when you feel like it, but automatically, regardless of whether the market looks scary, exciting, boring, or unpredictable. By now, you've lived through at least one recession and several corrections. You've learned that panic is expensive and impulsive optimism is just as dangerous. So you stay steady, you stay diversified, and you stay invested. This stage is also where lifestyle discipline becomes even more important. Your income is higher, your career is more established, and the temptation to finally enjoy it grows louder. But unnecessary upgrades are the silent killers of momentum. A bigger house, nicer cars, and luxury habits might feel like rewards, but they drain the exact fuel you need to scale your asset base. Level 4 is about avoiding the comfort trap, the illusion that stability is enough. Because if your money isn't working harder every year, inflation is erasing your progress quietly. You want to build an asset base that pays you whether you're clocking in or not. Once you move through this stage, you're not just building wealth anymore, you're building leverage, freedom, and options. And level 5 is where that shift becomes unmistakable. Level 5, age 44-55, from security to real wealth building. By your mid-40s to mid-50s, life looks very different than it did a decade ago. You've been through career shifts, economic cycles, personal wins, personal losses, and through all of it, you've built a level of financial stability that actually means something. But here's the part most people misunderstand. Stability is not the finish line. At this stage, stability is just the starting point. Level 5 is where you shift from protecting your life to designing your life. Your first property is well underway, your second asset is either purchased or in motion, and your emergency fund isn't something you think about anymore. It's simply part of the system. The question now becomes, what kind of future do you want to build intentionally instead of by accident? This is the decade when your income is typically the strongest. You've built experience, credibility, and momentum in your field. But higher income also comes with a trap: the illusion of safety. It becomes very easy to coast, to settle, to assume everything is good enough. But coasting is the slowest path backward. Inflation, lifestyle creep, and comfort quietly erase progress when you stop building. So, at this level, your focus shifts to accelerating wealth, not just maintaining it. That means paying down the big debts, the mortgage, remaining loans, anything that drains your monthly freedom. Not because debt is evil, but because removing your largest financial anchors increases your optionality. A low expense life is a powerful life. Meanwhile, you're investing 15 to 20% of your income consistently, and you're thinking far more seriously about cash flow. Index funds, rental income, dividends, these aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet anymore. They're the building blocks of a life where you can walk away from a job without panic, move countries because you want to, or help your kids without jeopardizing your retirement. This is also the window where you can still take smart risks. Not reckless bets, calculated ones. Starting a small business on the side, buying an income property that needs some work, pivoting into a higher paying field, or developing a skill that increases your earning power. Time hasn't run out, but the window is narrower, so every decision counts more. Level 5 is where you stop thinking in terms of more money and start thinking in terms of more freedom. The goal isn't to retire tomorrow, it's to make sure that when retirement comes, it's a choice, not an obligation. And with that mindset, level 6 becomes the transition into a completely different kind of life. Level 6, age 50 to 60, the transition toward real financial freedom. Your 50s are where money stops being theoretical. Every financial decision you've made over the last 3 decades starts showing consequences, good or bad. The margin for error shrinks not because life gets harder, but because the runway gets shorter. But here's the encouraging part. If you've been building steadily up to this point, this decade becomes the bridge between working because you have to and working because you choose to. Level 6 is about alignment. It's where you look at your life, your expenses, your investments, and ask, does this actually support the freedom I want? And for many people, the answer is not yet. The good news is that this decade gives you enough time to fix the gaps as long as you stay intentional. First, this is when your retirement accounts need to be fully funded. Maxing contributions is no longer an if I can task. It's mandatory. The compounding engine is strongest in these years not because the market does something special, but because your balances are finally large enough for small percentage gains to feel meaningful. A 7% return on a $700,000 portfolio hits very differently than 7% on $70,000. Second, this is the decade when simplicity becomes a strength. You realize you don't need a 5-bedroom house for 2 people, you don't need luxury car leases, you don't need subscriptions you forgot existed, gadgets you never use, or upgrades that don't actually improve your life. Cutting these isn't about restriction, it's about reclaiming energy, time, and financial space. Then, there's the emotional shift. You start valuing options more than objects. The ability to take 6 months off. The ability to walk away from a toxic job. The ability to help your family without destabilizing your own future. Freedom stops being a financial metric, it becomes a lifestyle design question. For late starters, this decade feels heavy, the pressure is real, but the worst mistake now is freezing. A focused 10-year run can still reshape your financial trajectory, just not through gambling or catch-up schemes. It happens through disciplined investing, reduced expenses, and eliminating the biggest financial risks one by one. Level 6 isn't about arriving, it's about preparing for the final leap. It's about removing noise, strengthening systems, and locking in the habits that will carry you through the next chapter with stability instead of fear. Because level 7 isn't about money anymore. It's about what your money allows you to leave behind. Level 7, age 60 plus, legacy, continuity, and the final stage of financial mastery. By the time you reach your 60s, something profound happens. The noise finally quiets, the urgency to prove yourself fades, the pressure to upgrade disappears, and the grind that once felt endless begins to lose its appeal. This stage isn't about chasing more. It's about protecting what you've built and deciding what should remain when you're no longer here. Level 7 is where money becomes less about accumulation and more about continuity. You've spent decades building systems, retirement accounts, real estate, investments, savings buckets, income streams. For the first time, those systems now work harder than you do. You don't wake up wondering if you can pay the bills. You wake up wondering how to structure the next 20 or 30 years so the life you built stays stable, even as you step back. The real question now is legacy. Not the dramatic Hollywood version, the practical one. What happens to your assets? Who takes over? Who benefits? Who gets overwhelmed? Because without planning, decades of work can vanish shockingly fast. A poorly structured estate, missing documents, outdated beneficiaries, or unprepared family members can create financial chaos that wipes out what took a lifetime to build. And this is why trusts, wills, estate plans, and updated directives matter. They're not paperwork, they're protection. They make sure your assets move smoothly, avoid unnecessary taxes, and don't become burdens for the people you love. They ensure your property, investments, and accounts transition with clarity instead of confusion. But level 7 isn't just financial, it's deeply personal. This is the stage where impact replaces accumulation. You start thinking about what knowledge, values, and perspective you want to pass on, teaching your children how money works, guiding your grandchildren, funding scholarships, supporting causes, contributing to communities, or building something that outlives you. And here's the hidden truth most people overlook. Legacy isn't about wealth, and it's about preparation. A family with modest assets but clear instructions is far more stable than a wealthy family left with silence and assumption. The biggest danger at this stage is believing the work is done. It's not. Without maintenance, organization, and careful planning, everything can unravel in months. But with intention, this stage becomes the most meaningful part of your financial life. Level 7 is the final evolution of wealth, turning your lifetime of effort into stability, clarity, and impact for the people who will walk further than you ever could. The bonus lesson: the trap of slowing down too early. There's a moment in almost every financial journey where things finally start working. The debt is mostly handled, the emergency fund is full, investments are growing, life feels less fragile. And for the first time in years, maybe decades, you breathe a little easier. This sense of relief is powerful, but it's also one of the most dangerous points in the entire wealth building process. Because this is where people slow down. They pay off a major loan or finally crack 6 figures in income, and suddenly the urgency disappears. They start thinking, I'm good now, I deserve to relax, I've earned some comfort. And they're not wrong. They have earned comfort. But taking your foot off the gas before the system is complete is the financial equivalent of stopping halfway across a bridge. You're not in danger, but you're not safe either. Momentum is one of the strongest forces in personal finance. Once you start building it, everything becomes easier. Saving feels less painful, investing becomes second nature, debt melts away faster, and opportunities appear that didn't exist before. But momentum is fragile. It doesn't survive a complacency. If you stop too early, the wave you build starts to flatten. Not immediately, that's what makes it sneaky. A few months of relaxed investing doesn't ruin anything. A small lifestyle upgrade doesn't break the system. But eventually, the gap shows up. Inflation erodes what used to feel like plenty. Emergencies hit harder than they should. Your emergency fund that once felt oversized suddenly feels small. The raises that once felt life-changing start getting absorbed by everyday spending. The feeling isn't catastrophic, it's subtle. A slow drift backward. And that's the point. You didn't do anything wrong. You just stopped doing the things that were working. The real power of wealth comes from consistency, from staying the course long after the initial excitement wears off, from investing through the boring years, from budgeting even when income grows, from maintaining discipline when comfort is finally accessible. The trap of slowing down early is believing 1 or 2 big milestones mean you're done. But those wins are not the finish line. They're the launch pad. The people who build real wealth don't sprint and collapse. They build, then build again. They let momentum compound. They keep applying pressure long after it feels necessary. Because the moment you stop pushing is the moment your progress starts quietly slipping away. Key takeaways. Wealth isn't built by luck, talent, or even hard work alone. It's built by sequence. Each stage of life comes with the financial move that matters most in that moment, and when you hit those milestones in the right order, momentum becomes your greatest ally. In your 20s, the focus is discipline, living below your means, eliminating high interest debt, and building a real financial buffer. In your 30s, ownership becomes the priority, your first property, consistent investing, and long-term planning. Your 40s are about expansion, a second asset, smarter investing, and avoiding the comfort trap that slows people down just when their earning power peaks. Your 50s shift toward alignment and simplicity, positioning yourself for a life built on choice rather than obligation. And in your 60s and beyond, the mission becomes legacy, protecting what you've built and ensuring it continues smoothly after you're gone. Across every level, one truth repeats: momentum only works if it continues. Don't slow down after your first wins. Don't coast because things finally feel stable. Keep pushing, keep building, keep protecting your progress. Wealth rewards consistency, and the sooner you follow the right sequence, the sooner your life starts compounding in your favor.